Wow. It's such an amazing feeling to be here. Good morning, ACN. Honestly, I can honestly say there is a reason why we are all here this weekend. And I honestly want to say one thing. My mentor always says that human beings, the most three fearful things is flying on a plane, right? The second most feared thing is public speaking, and the third most feared thing is death. Now, how many of us experienced our plane journey coming here to Rotterdam? I mean, I remember flying on the plane. The turbulence was absolutely crazy. I mean, I thought I was gonna die, right? But then I thought to myself, you know what, I managed to achieve regional vice president, so as long as I die, at least I made that accomplishment. But we are all here today, and God has sent us all here for a reason. So give yourselves a big round of applause for being here this weekend. Now, I'm going to start my training straight away. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to stay in phase one. But before I begin, I just want to let you guys know, I was born in Italy, in Rome. Italia, dove siete? Now, I went to England at the age of 5, and, I couldn't speak a word of English. And when I was in England, everyone in school used to call me the Black Super Mario. I had a very, very strong Italian accent. And I remember when I was there, growing up, I always wanted to be involved in the acting industry. I always wanted to be involved in the entertainment business. And one thing I realized is that, with the acting world, it didn't provide me with financial security. But I was very fortunate to be featured on one of the Harry Potter series, which was the Half-Blood Prince. Now this is me, right? I know I look quite chubby, right? This is me when I was in Harry Potter, and I remember I was part of Gryffindor. It was a great experience. But the only problem is that every single time I was auditioning for films, I wasn't getting the right results. And what I mean about the right results, I wasn't getting the income that I desired, okay? And my parents always told me, go to university and get a job. That will give you the security that you need for your future. So I literally followed my parents' plan. So I went to university, I graduated with a degree, okay? And I remember when I took this picture, my parents were so happy, but I wasn't happy, right? And you can see from the picture, right? Okay? And I remember as soon as I graduated from university, I managed to find a job as a car park attendant, and it was very cold. I remember it was during the months of January and February. It was extremely cold. And as you can see in this picture, I was wearing about 5 layers of jumpers, right? Because I was extremely cold. And during these times, I was making about £330 on a monthly basis, and I was doing about 30 hours a week. So I was very, very depressed, okay? And you can see from this picture as well, I was very angry, okay? But it gets better, don't worry. Now, I hated that job, so I went to my next job, and I was working as a porter for Harrods in London, okay? Now, I know I don't look happy in this picture as well, because I wasn't. I was making about £6.50 an hour. Now, whilst I was there, it's funny how things work. Whilst I was there, 2 weeks after I started working, a friend of mine from university, he gave me a call. His name's Ahmed Mukhtar, okay? Yes? He gave me a call and he said, hey Abdul, it's been a long time, how have you been? I've been good. Well, not that good really, but I'm living, I'm breathing, that's the main thing. And he said, look, I have an opportunity, come and have a look. So, cut a long story short, I went to see the opportunity and I saw ACN for the first time. And, nothing really made sense to me. I was quite confused. But one thing that did make sense to me was the residual income that you can make on essential services. Now, I couldn't sleep for months, right? I had AC anemia. How many of you have AC anemia when you first saw ACN, right? So you guys know what I'm talking about. Now, what happened was, I understood the concept of residual income, and I can honestly say I was overwhelmed when I heard the opportunity. And I remember, literally, within my first 3 months, I became an executive team trainer. And I went to the Barcelona convention for the first time, absolutely inspired. When I came back, I became an executive team leader straight away within my 4 months. Within 5 months, I became a team coordinator. Within 7 months, I became a regional director. And within 14 months, I became a regional vice president. And I can honestly say, this business has changed my life. And I just want to hand it back to the 4 co-founders who's always leading by example and who's created this fantastic opportunity for all of us to achieve massive success. Let's give the 4 co-founders a big round of applause to change all our lives. And it's funny because I remember 2 years ago, I got promoted to regional vice president in the same arena today, right? 2 years ago. I remember like it was yesterday, and it's allowed me to share my story with thousands of people. And not only that, it's allowed me to become financially free in this business. It's allowed me to also accomplish my dreams. And not only that, I became a Circle of Champions member straight after RVP after a year. And I'm so blessed and humbled that I've also achieved a Circle of Champions member for this year as well. So this is actually my 2nd year of Circle of Champions. And I just want to say, these people behind me, we do not have super talent. We're just average people. And I promise you, every single person in this arena can become a Circle of Champions member. I remember I was sitting in the same seat as you, as an executive team trainer, as an executive team leader. But what I was always doing, I was always taking notes from every single SVP and RVP that was coming on the stage. So how many of you have your notes out and your pens out and looking ready to learn this weekend? Fantastic. Now, I'm going to be talking about on how to stay in phase 1, okay? Now, what is phase 1? Now, phase 1 is when you're literally in the game, you're in the trenches, you're recruiting, you're inviting consistently to the BOMs, you're going out there acquiring customers consistently, you're always doing what you need to do to build the business, okay? Now, me, what I do when I'm in phase 1, people in your team will realize it as well. And sometimes I even post pictures, okay? By the way, that's my emoji. Do you guys think it looks like me? Right. I even post, on the WhatsApp group showing my team that, I have a new sign up, I have a new customer and so on, so that the team also gets into phase 1 as well. So phase 1 is acquiring customers and of course, building the business and recruiting as many people as you can. Now, what tends to happen is this. You're recruiting, you're in the game, and then you start to realize is, some people in your team, they're not inviting, they're not getting customers. And this can lead you to the 2nd phase, which is phase 2, right? Now, what is phase 2? Phase 2 is when you start to analyze. You start to analyze the business. You start to analyze your team. You start to analyze the ACN logo. You start to analyze the compensation plan. You start to analyze the products. You start to analyze on your downline reporting that only updates twice a day, right? You start to analyze everything. And this is the point where your momentum starts to decrease because you're not in phase 1, okay? So you're not in phase 1, so your momentum starts to slow down. And as you're seeing your momentum slowing down, what happens is you get to the 3rd phase. Now, the 3rd phase is when you start managing, right? You start to look at your team and think, right, what do I need to do to get these people inviting? Right, let me think. Right, I maybe need to get my ETT, I need to call him and maybe teach him a new script. I maybe need to contact one of my IBOs and get them to get at least 40 points. And you don't have 40 points to yourself because you're not in phase 1. And what tends to happen is your momentum starts to decrease even lower and lower. This point, you have no momentum. Why? Because you're not in phase 1. Now, what happens is, because you have no momentum now, right? What do you start doing? You start going into phase 4. Now, when you go into phase 4, this is literally when you blame everyone. You start to blame all your IBOs while your business is not growing. You start to blame your upline. You start to blame your downline. You start to blame ACN. You start to blame the compensation plan. You start to blame your bank balance, right? You start to even blame your mom and dad that told you that you will never make it, all right? So you start to blame everyone. And believe me, we've all been through these 4 phases. And every single leader always goes back to phase 1. I remember when I was an executive team leader, You know, Regional Director Ibrahim Ali, you know, he gave me a call and he was like, hey Abdul, look, I signed up 2 people today. I'm like, that's fantastic. Yeah, and you know what? I got 2 energy customers today. I'm like, well done, man. That's really, really good. And you know what he said to me? He said, you know what? This is when he started analyzing. This is when he started going to the second phase. He said, oh, mate, you know, the problem is, right, is that these people, I'm doing all the work. These people are not working. They're not moving. It's just me doing everything, right? And then what he said was, he said, you know what, maybe what I need to do is, I need to have a team training and I just need to get them to write a list and invite as many people. And they should do the PBRs themselves so that they can grow. Oh, actually, you know what? The reason maybe because my team's not moving is because it's you, Abdul. You don't give me no help. So as you can see, he went through 4 phases in literally 1 minute. I said, Ibrahim, watch Simon Aboud sorting for leaders on SVP University and call me back. He watched it and he called me back. He said, Abdul, I'm going to go back to phase 1. So you always have to go back to phase 1 so you realize that your team will start to build. And I tell everyone this, right? If you want to keep winning, always go back to phase 1, regardless. Always go back to phase 1, regardless. And you always have to, as a leader, you always have to realize what phase you're in, okay? Now, there's something that I've learned from Stanley Gold. He says you have to set the tone and the pace, define objectives and strategies, and demonstrate through personal example what you expect from others. So you have to set the pace, okay? You have to be the #1 recruiter of your team. I remember when I was a regional director, you know, to become a regional director, you need 2 TC legs. I was a regional director, but I was the #1 team coordinator as well. So when I was the #1 team coordinator, every single person in my team was going for #1 because I was in phase 1, okay? So you always have to be in phase 1 and lead by example. Now, not only that, you always have to make sure you have your 40 points. If you want your team to have 40 points, you need to have 40 points. You need to set the right pace for your team. And it's something that I've learned from my mentor, and he says that, Abdul Sharif, leadership builds the team. The team does not build leadership. So always understand that leadership comes from you. It doesn't come from your team, it comes directly from you. Now, I just want to let you guys know that there's many different attitudes when you're building ACN, right? Attitude is the most important thing, and I always tell every single person in our team is that you have to have a bear attitude. Now, there's 3 different attitudes that people have in ACN. The first attitude is a bear attitude. The second one is a bar attitude, and the third is a rave attitude. Now, what's a bear attitude? Now, as you can see, the first letter is B, so you gotta have belief, 100% belief. I remember, ladies and gents, when I received my first residual income check of £11, oh my God, let me tell you something. It's not a lot of money, right? But I'm telling you, that gave me 100% belief that this thing that I'm doing works. So I'm thinking, imagine if I just grow it a little bit more, what can my lifestyle be like, okay? So I started to have belief. And then what happens is, when you start to have belief, you start to get excited. You know, you're excited, you're enthusiastic, you're ready to pump up the volume, you're ready to get into the trenches, and that's what leads to action. You start to put in action, you start to put in work, you start to get into the trenches. And as you're starting to put in action, this is what leads to results. You start to make money, you see your team growing, you know, you see your position getting higher. This is when you start to get results. And as long as you remain on this attitude, on this cycle, this is how you're gonna be continuously getting results here in ACN. Now, this is a bar attitude. Now, some people, they have a bar attitude, right? Now, what's a bar attitude? A bar attitude is when someone just has belief, they just get to work, put in action, and then they expect to get results. But let me tell you something. There's a letter missing there, excitement, right? E, excitement. You have to be excited. If you're not excited, how are you gonna attract people? You're not gonna attract anyone. This is why you have to have a bear attitude. And some people, they wanna have a rave attitude, right? How many of you have experienced when someone says, oh, you know what? If ACN pays me, you know, £5,000 in my account, I'm gonna get to work. You know, if ACN pays me this amount of money, I'm gonna get to work. They expect to see results before they put in the work. So a rave attitude is when someone expects results, then they take action, then they have belief, and then they get excited. But believe me, ladies and gents, that's not how it works. You always want to remember that you want to be in the number one attitude, which is a bear attitude. Now, how do you stay in phase one? Okay? Well, the first thing is you have to be the number one recruiter of your team. You have to be the number one recruiter of your team. You have to make sure that consistently you look at your downline reports and you are the number one of every single position in your team, okay? Now the second thing is you want to have a daily method of operation. Now, has anyone ever come to you and said, oh, how many hours do I need to do this thing to become successful? You know, how many hours is it required for me to do ACN to hit the top and make some money? Now, I'm going to give you guys an example. Now, let's just imagine, right, an individual, a person goes to the gym for 8 hours once a week compared to someone that goes to the gym for 5 days a week, but just for 1 hour. Who would get more results? The second individual. So in ACN, you have to have a daily method of operation. You have to be consistent every single day. This is how you're going to get results. And my mentor always said that, Abdul, the secret to having a successful life, it starts with having a successful day, a series of great days. And great days is what leads to a series of great weeks. And great weeks is what leads to a series of great months. And if you have a series of great months, it will lead to a series of great years. And great years is what leads to a great life. So you always want to be consistent and do this on a daily basis to build your business. And of course, you want to be speedy, exposed, recruit for recruit. Now, what do I mean by this? You know, when we get an IBO involved in ACN, we can't be lazy. We have to put in the work and make sure that IBO gets results as soon as possible. So you have to do the 24-hour game plan. You have to make sure you build them a team as soon as possible. Within their first 7 days, you've got to make sure they have a few customers, and this is what's going to allow them to have the bear attitude. This is what allows them to have the belief that they need to continue with the business. Now, another thing is you have to be a leader, not a helper. Let me tell you something. If you just babysit people, you'll make babysitter money. So you have to make sure that you're a leader and you lead from the front. Now, I also learned one thing is that, you know, a leader doesn't need to have a lot of money. They don't need to have flashy cars or designer clothes to be a leader and, you know, lead a lot of people. All you got to do is you got to have a clear vision. Believe me, when I started ACN, I didn't have a flashy car. You know, I didn't have anything, right? But I had a vision and I knew where I was going and I was excited. And that's what allowed me to attract the right people in my business. I mean, even the 4 founders, they explain it in their story. When they started, they didn't have anything. You know, they weren't rich from the beginning. They started from nothing. But what they had was they had a clear vision where they were going. And this is where ACN is today. So always understand that you have to have a clear vision of where you're going, and you have to share it with as many people with full of excitement. And of course, you want to keep it super simple. Kiss. I love to kiss, all right? You have to keep it super simple. Believe me, ladies and gents, when you keep this business super simple is what makes people believe that they can achieve. So always keep it super simple. And talk to more people. You know, we always say that we want to have a list of 100 names, but consistently, we want to continuously build that list every single day. And one of my mentors said to me is that, you know, when someone joins the business, right, and they say no, that doesn't mean no, it just means not now, right? And he also said to me is, you know, after 7 no's leads to a yes. I remember when I got started in ACN, believe me, ladies and gents, so many people, all my close friends, even my own family, my brothers and sisters, they all said no. No, Abdul, we're not joining your phone thing. No, Abdul, we're not joining that gas and electric thing. No, we're not joining. No, 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 right? But I didn't quit. If I quit, I wouldn't be where I am today. I consistently persisted, and I was persistent. And my mentor always said, 7 no's leads to a yes. But he said to me, Abdul Sharif, that doesn't mean it works the same for the ladies, all right? So that's what he told me. Now, there's a right timing for everything. You want to make sure that you spend 1 minute with 100 people. Don't spend 100 minutes with one person. And you can't say the right things to the wrong people, and you can't say the wrong things to the right people. And you always want to understand one thing. Everything has a timing. Now, hands up in the room, who believes today in Rotterdam that do you guys feel that this is the right time to be a part of ACN? How many of you feel the excitement in the room this weekend? How many of you know that this is the perfect timing to build a business from this event to the next event in Madrid? So everything has a timing, all right? It's timing, it's not talent. Believe me, none of us are talented. None of us are talented. You just have to work very hard. People always think, what's the secret to success? Work. All you gotta do is work, right? Persistency and work, that's all it is. Now, I just wanna quickly say, you know, I wanna share a story with you guys about this elephant, right? Now, this elephant is humongous, huge. Now, this man was literally walking past the elephant, and he was just mind blown because he saw this huge elephant and he saw it was tied with such a small rope. And he asked the trainer, he said, you know, how is it that you guys don't have no cages, no chains for this huge elephant? How is it that you just tie them on this small rope and they're just standing still, not moving anywhere? And this is what the trainer said. The trainer said, since the elephants were a young age, we were using the exact same small rope. So as they grow and they get bigger, they are programmed, they are conditioned to believe that they cannot break free. Now, like the elephants, how many of us have went through life experiences believing that we cannot do something just because we failed at it once? How many of us have gone through life experiences where we're influenced by people who have limited belief systems to not achieve something? Let me tell you something, ladies and gents. If you can conceive and believe, then you can achieve, right? And to close, I just want to say one thing. This is the year of harvest, ladies and gents. I promise you, this year, we're going to be experiencing so many more regional vice presidents, so many more senior vice presidents. But the question is, are you going to be a vice president of this company? If you are, let me hear you make some noise. Ladies and gents, my name's Abdul Sharif. I look forward to seeing you all in Madrid. Take care.